Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Top Clack. As always, I am Man of Interest, joined by my wonderful co-host, Quakums, aka Brian. And this week, we are joined by Kbdio's very own Jesse. Jesse, great to have you on the show.
Hey, folks, thanks for having me.
All right, so can you tell us a little bit about not only yourself, but what Kbdio is and what it represents in this community?
Sure. So the businessy way of saying it is I'm the co-founder and CTO of Kbdio. What Kbdio is we're a tiny little ergonomic keyboard startup. We make this, the Kbdio Model 1. We did a Kickstarter a little over 2 years ago now, and we've just started shipping to backers. It's been a fascinating ride. Back in the beginning, when I started, this was supposed to be a 1 month project to make myself a single keyboard. As I suspect many folks know, the hobby frequently gets kind of out of hand. In this case, we're now on the hook to make thousands of keyboards. I spent 4 months in China last year working with our factory. We designed our own keycaps and have custom injection molds, custom PCBs with individually addressable RGB LEDs, USB Type-C, milled hardwood enclosure, which is lovely. It just turned out to be kind of interesting to get all this stuff together. Most keyboard factories have never worked with wood. Most wood factories have never worked with keyboards. Comes with firmware, source code, and a screwdriver. But really this started off as, I'm going to make one for me. And then people kept asking where they could buy the prototypes. And we figured that we'd do a Kickstarter and we'd sell maybe 50 of them, of something that was a lot rougher. It was like laser cut plywood. And it would still cost about what this does, or a little over $300. And we would only lose a little bit of money on each one. It took longer to get to Kickstarter than we expected. But we have something that's more sustainable to make and a hell of a lot nicer than we'd originally planned.
Yeah, so on your Kickstarter, it actually looks like you very, very nicely exceeded your expectations. The original pledge was a $120,000 goal, and you've already cleared $650,000. And so, like, what does that mean to you? What is that success?
Sure. So we set the Kickstarter goal the way that Kickstarter always advises people to. Set it at the amount of money you need to be able to make the product. And at $120K, we would have been able to make the product. We would have been able to ship everybody their keyboards. That would have been, I think, 400 keyboards. And we would not have been able to pay ourselves a dime, but other than that, we wouldn't have lost money. And so that's sort of where Kickstarter says that's where you should set your goal. And we hit the goal in 2.5 hours. Which was a very pleasant surprise. And we did something kind of nutty during our Kickstarter campaign. As far as we know, at the time at least, we were the only Kickstarter project to ever do a coast-to-coast roadshow during their campaign. And so in 30 days, we stopped at something like 27 maker spaces in 27 different states and had Kbdio meetups to let people play the product. Sometimes we talk about how to build your own keyboard from scratch without paying us any money. Sometimes we talk about what was inside ours. In some places, I think in Louisville, it was the first Louisville keyboard meetup that was sort of built around our appearance. There was a demo of how to eat Cheetos with chopsticks. People came out with a bunch of homebrew boards and a bunch of commercial boards. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of driving. The company is and was me and my wife Kailh. She's the CEO, she's the business side, and I'm the tech side. And so we did this crazy zigzag thing around the country and put 10K miles on our Civic in a month while running a Kickstarter.
Wow.
I'm astonished that we survived it, but it was a blast. And so by the end of the campaign, we'd hit $650,000, a couple thousand keyboards. And since then, we've been working to get them manufactured and also not really advertising, but still selling them via our website. And every month or so, we've been putting out 3,000 to 5,000 words about what's gone on. So, either problems that we've had with manufacturing or successes. Here's how QA works in a keyboard factory. Here's what injection mold machines look like. Here's how laser engraved keycaps get laser engraved. All sorts of fun stuff.
Okay, so you talked about you and your wife Kailh doing this. Are those the only two members of Keyboardia, or do you have more of a team than that?
So we are the only full timers. It's a small company, and if we had scaled up our own staff, we would run out of money faster. But we have, we work with a factory in China that does the manufacturing, and they coordinate to a bunch of the other suppliers. We've had contractors that have helped us out with some of the trickier electrical engineering and mechanical engineering. We have a project manager that we love on the ground in Shenzhen who works for us to help wrangle the factory. And a bunch of the, so we ended up building our own open source firmware built on top of Arduino C. One of our original goals was to trick programmers into doing embedded development. And poking at TMK or QMK can be kind of daunting for somebody who's never worked with microcontrollers. But everybody knows that Arduino is easy. And so by building on top of the Arduino infrastructure, we have this fairly nice firmware that is all plug-in based. So things like Space Cadet Shift or different RGB LED effects or sticky keys or macros, all this stuff can be written as a tiny little plugin that's just an Arduino library. And so we've ended up with customers contributing firmware. A couple of customers did really significant work on the firmware before they got hardware. One customer in Hungary had basically forked our firmware to add a bunch of features. I suckered him into breaking the features out into plugins, and he ended up ditching his firmware and coming back I think he probably has many more lines of code in the core than I do now. And so we ended up sending him a hand-built prototype last Christmas so that he'd have a keyboard to test. This was all before he had hardware to test on. Yeah. He's ported our firmware to the Shortcut, which is a split gaming keyboard in development. And there's been some work to port the firmware to other hardware. It was interesting trying to explain this to Chinese manufacturers because having N-key rollover that works on Windows, Mac, and Linux, having the configurable LED effects, they start saying, "Oh, this sounds like a good proprietary advantage." We say, "Well, actually, the code's on GitHub, and you can use it today, even if we don't sign a contract with you. Even if you decide not to work with us, you can use our firmware on your keyboards. If you have any trouble, just send me email." And a couple of the manufacturers got it, but for many of them, it was completely mind-blowing.
Awesome.
Yeah,
so,
it was a lot of fun.
Can we talk a little bit about the design of the keyboard itself and what made you want to design this particular keyboard in this particular way?
Yeah. So I've had bad wrists pretty much my entire career. Nearly 20 years ago, I had a summer internship, and they bought me an ergonomic desk and ergonomic chair, and that was what triggered RSI that I'd never had before. So I've been through probably 20 or 30 different ergonomic boards. I spent a lot of time with an early Microsoft Natural in my backpack, which did not travel well. I could never get used to a Kinesis. I've got a Moltron. I've got a data hand that I convinced an employer to buy me in my 20s. And nothing quite worked right. I got a Microtron when I was in Japan, the Utron.
Mm-hmm. Wow, very
cool. It's a really cool board. I had to buy it in cash from the manufacturer because it was not really available retail, and they made me try it in their office before they bought it because they explained it's a very special item and I might not like it. But I was sitting in their office, and of course I was going to buy it for a big fat stack of yen. including they've got custom memory foam wrist rests, which are the best wrist rests I have ever touched. They're astonishing. But the Microtron, it's a great layout, but it was designed for Japanese hands. They're smaller than American hands by far, and I've got not tiny hands. And right around, so when Docs was first working on the Ergo Docs, he posted the shell, the design of the shell as either STLs or step files. They hadn't posted any electronics, but I'm like, that looks like what I want. So I downloaded them and paid Shapeways a couple $100 to 3D print them for me. This was like 5 years ago now. And I finally got it wired up. I hadn't soldered since I was 8. It took me 40 hours to solder this keyboard together with a teensy with.
What were you soldering at 8 years old?
Like some little Heath kit or something, like make a crystal radio kind of stuff.
Right. So
it was like it's the kind of thing you do
tech for a while then. Yeah, tech has been your life for a while then.
But I was a software guy. Also, yeah, I'm 41. Like this was a long, long time ago. And I finally got it built, and I hated it. The thumb cluster just didn't work for me, and I started getting really into old ergo research. And I found this thing from Japan from the 80s, the Tron project. They basically decided to reinvent computing. And they went and looked at what we'd done in the West. And at least in the case of keyboards, they looked at what we did in the West, politely pointed, laughed, and started over with hand research. And so there's this keyboard, the Tron TK1, that the U-Tron is based on, that has thumb arcs like ours, that where the thumb keys are in an arc like this. The columns are splayed a little more than ours. It doesn't have the palm key like we do, but and it looked super cool. And I started designing based on that, just to see if I could find something I'd like. And like 6 or 7 prototypes in, I finally started to get to something that felt good. It's sort of a long-winded way of explaining how I got here.
No, that's totally
perfect.
Yeah, so obviously with this keyboard, you are competing directly with the Ergo Docs, which is a wildly popular split ergonomic keyboard in this community. Something I did notice, and obviously this is kind of a controversial topic, but as far as the enthusiast market goes, changing keycaps is a really big deal.
Yep.
And that's something that's possible on the Ergo Docs, but on the Keyboardio, it's not really a thing, because you have those particular caps that are special made for that board in particular. They have curves; they're not a standard size.
Yeah.
So, what was the thought process there?
So this came about after I had a really interesting afternoon talking to Ted Selker, who was he's responsible basically for the ThinkPad keyboard and the TrackPoint. And like way back when, I think he worked at Xerox PARC and worked with Engelbart on some of the earliest of the interesting computers. And he explained to me about keycap shape and why having sculpted caps matters. So not only does it let you feel where things are very easily, so like we actually have homing dots on index, pinky, and thumb. It's a little hard. It's almost impossible to see on the screen, but the key top shape helps guide your fingers into the right places. And so having sculpted having everything be a flat spherical cap means that your fingers don't really know what's going on. Island-style caps are far worse, because if you mishit, if you're on the edge of a key, you don't get forced to slide into the right place. And we wanted to get a lot of the benefit that you would see on a Kinesis or a Multron without having to go to the crazy flex PCB on a Kinesis or lack of a PCB on a Multron.
Yeah.
The Kinesis has, it's a flex PCB on a plastic carrier. The Multron, every key is individually hand wired. There's no board inside. It's all point-to-point soldered. But so when you're typing, that back row should be higher than the rows in front of it, so that when you hit down, you don't graze the key in front of it. The bottom row when you're pulling back your fingers, it should be sculpted to guide your finger to make it easier to hit in the right place. And while the keyboard enthusiast market is super into replaceable keycaps, the value that you get, like, we were focused more on ergonomics than the aftermarket for caps for this board. We've got some other designs that are very much MX switches with standard caps that we're contemplating. But also, we selected Matthias key switches for this board, and once you're already in Alp switches, the aftermarket caps are somewhat limited anyway. That said, because we own our molds, we're able to do additional key sets at what we believe is a more reasonable price. So we are selling aftermarket keycaps. So like, this is the painting jig that the factory uses to paint a set of keycaps, and this is what's called the Linear A runic set that one of our customers actually designed. And so every key is a different symbol from the ancient Greek, Cretan, Linear A alphabet that nobody has ever really deciphered. And it's especially for folks who aren't using QWERTY or Colmac or Dvorak, which are the legended sets that we're selling, it gets you something where each key is different, but it's not labeled in something that will confuse you. We're also selling black painted, UV coated caps and translucent white caps. In the future, we can do other colorways, other sets of legends, and we're able to sell sets at a profit for $40 right now because we own the molds.
That's a big deal.
That's big.
Yeah, no,
that's great.
The keys are about 1.25 millimeters thick. We ended up with an ABS and polycarbonate mix for the plastic, because if we had done double shot caps, we'd basically be limited to a single set of legends. And so paint, engrave, and clear coat means that we can do all sorts of different legends, but that we needed to have a translucent plastic. And so for that, PBT isn't really an option. But also, because the caps are painted, the underlying plastic material doesn't end up mattering that much. It's all about the paint and the overcoating.
Okay. So you did mention Matthias key switches. What was the objective behind using that over the more popular MX style switches?
Sure. So the design got locked in about 3 years ago now. And at the time, our original plan had been to use Cherry MX switches. And we reached out to Cherry, and at the time their lead time was about 12 months. And they could promise you'd get at least 80% of your order. And then we talked to their Cherry's primary distributor in Asia, who said they could skim off maybe 60,000 switches for us off other orders, so that we could ship. And that sounds like a lot of switches, but our keyboard has 64 keys. It'd be less than 1,000 keyboards. We actually, we looked around at everything else that was available. I actually visited Kailh's factory, brought with me samples that they had sent me and Cherry MX switches, and I was sitting there with an MX Brown and a Kailh Brown, sort of saying, look, this Kailh Brown, it feels like an MX Brown that someone's been using for a decade. Can you do something about that? They brought in an engineer, and the engineer explained that they'd made a slight change to the click leaf that got them 10% longer lifetime, but it had this different feel. And I asked if there's any way we could get something that felt more like a Cherry switch. And they got back to me about 2 weeks later saying, we talked to the boss. The boss says he doesn't want to make things that are just clones of Cherry switches. And at the time, it was Kailh, Gateron, and Gautier for the MX clones that anybody knew about. And they were all clones. None of them were believed to be particularly high quality. That's changed dramatically in the past couple of years. Kailh is now putting out stuff that I would say is probably better than the stuff Cherry is putting out. But at the time, Mattia switches were a known quantity. They were available. They felt good, and there was a story behind them of why we would choose them for a premium keyboard, because saying we've gone and chosen cheap clone Chinese switches for our $300+ keyboard is a really hard sell for good reasons.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mattia switches, they're pretty good actually. The quiet clicks and the clicks are both.
Yeah, and they've actually
they've been retooled recently. I think
they did retool, and that actually led to a little bit of a delay for us. But they were super helpful as they got back up to speed. But all of our production boards are being made with their new low wobble switches, which they believe don't bind as much, they don't chatter as much, and they don't have that wobble that's traditionally associated with ALP switches.
Awesome. That is really good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now that we're done completely interrogating you and probing your brain,
that's all good.
Huey, let's move on to some other things.
I was thinking. Okay, I know it's scary when I think, but this week
a little bit.
I was thinking. So those of you in chat may not know. Sometimes Brian and I are prepared, and this week we were prepared. We knew Jesse was going to be here this week. Everything's great. So I was thinking split keyboards, Keyboardia. What other split keyboards are there? You know, I reviewed the VEA. If you guys have seen my stuff, I've reviewed the Kinesis Advantage, and I've quite a bit of experience with split and ergonomic boards myself as well. And that made me think. I don't know why I had this thought. Maybe I was watching Game of Thrones or something. But which split keyboard would make for the best nunchucks if you took the cable that connected both halves and made it a chain instead? So you wouldn't have to worry about the durability of like the cable falling out. The chain connecting both halves. Which keyboard would be the best set of nunchucks?
This is an interesting question.
It's kind of a tough question. I mean, obviously, as an ex-martial artist, I'm not that adverse to nunchuck. So, for me, it would be... A lot of people are going to say something like the VEA because it's heavy. And that does make sense. But there's also other factors here. You want length. You want to be able to outreach your opponent. You also want compatibility for your hands. You want something that you can easily grab while it's swinging.
Okay.
I would not choose the VEA because of those two reasons.
What would you choose?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. Is there a split? I'd probably choose a Let's split because it's not only small, but it's a uniform shape, and so that makes it easier to catch as you're swinging it.
Yeah.
It might not do as much damage per swing, but you'd be able to handle it a lot easier.
So my first inclination would probably be the IBM M15. It's an IBM M keyboard. It's built like an IBM M keyboard. It is splittable. Though if you've got it connected by the ball joint, it could also be the equivalent of a very short chain. It's a reasonably standard shape.
NS790 in the chat says, does 2 gherkins count? That would actually be like the best because a gherkin is long and slim, like you would want for that.
But for this question, I think it's best to only restrict it with proper ergonomic boards that were meant to be split, as opposed to just a 30% board you could just have 2 of.
Sure. Says data hand.
Ooh, the data hand? That'd be interesting.
The data, the pieces are too big. That's more like a pair of bricks.
Yeah, it's pretty
strong enough. Maybe that's the route to go, though.
I mean, I could put in my own. Unfortunately, I went reaching for a long cable and can't find one without going off camera. But we've got locking connectors on the back of the keyboard, on the back of the Model 1. It's Ethernet cables, so you can get a nice steel reinforced Ethernet cable in the middle there. But I don't know, the wood may be too soft.
I don't know if this is cheating, but I would cut a Kinesis advantage in half.
That's cheating.
Okay.
It's not.
It's full of air. It's like it's got nothing in it. It's like it's this big air cavity.
But it's easy to catch. But okay, so
how is a Kinesis advantage easy to catch?
Oh, I'm going to step off camera. This may not be the right answer, but
no worries. Okay, actually, the full hand ergodox, the one with the wrist rest built into the ergodox, the full hand one, because those are thinner portions that you can grab on.
Yeah,
I think.
I mean, for sheer damage, this was one of our early prototypes that we couldn't actually do. This is milled out of 2 blocks of aluminum. Ooh. It weighs like 4.5 pounds.
Yeah, that would probably be one of the best bets for.
It's got a nice little wooden inlay to give you a little bit of grip on the palms. God, I wish we could have made this thing.
It would be so hard to use like any split keyboard as a nunchuck. That's just like not a thing.
Like,
I don't know. What do you think, Huey? Other than splitting the super light Kinesis advantage in half,
it would probably have to be. I mean, VEA or the full hand ergodox, the one where the case has the wrist rest built in, as opposed to the normal ergodox. That's what I'd probably have to go with. One of those two.
Okay, get this though. 2 let splits.
It's not meant to be. 2 let splits? What do you mean, like?
I mean, it's okay. Like the let split is smaller. It's
like
easier to handle with one hand.
Two planks doesn't seem entirely wrong.
Well, there's. It's a split keyboard. You use 2 at the same time.
I mean, you could also have a pair of 10 pads that you've hacked to be essentially a split ortholinear.
2 number pads.
Anyways, what does chat think?
I'd hate to have my ass beat by nunchucks made out of a split keyboard.
Sure. Yes, maybe chat can help us.
I think most people probably would not like that. Chat's been a little slow today.
Yeah, we're just
I've noticed.
We're just so we're so intense. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say negative things on the show, but we have a fairly low view count today. Even I wonder, is something going on today that we don't know about?
I'm just not that popular.
I don't know, man. Like you're more popular than some other guests that we have.
When in doubt, do the American thing and blame a disaster.
That's true.
Yeah.
See, obviously that means that if we have low guests, it's obviously our missing guests are from Texas or from Florida, and we wish them the
Georgia
best. Exactly, and that has to be the reason.
Oh, people in chat are saying football, first game of the NFL season.
Oh, right. Sports.
That makes sense.
Hand egg.
That's the one with the oblong ball.
Yeah,
is that right?
The
brown ball.
The hand egg.
Yeah.
Where they run with it to like somewhere.
Isn't that like the worst use of like the skin of a pig? Wouldn't you rather like cook it, bacon?
Oh, chicharrones. Right? Yes, please.
Right.
When our son was born, the nurse was trying to explain to me the right way to feed the baby, and she's like, "Put the baby in a football hold." And I just kind of look at her like, "What's that?"
I'm not that kind of American.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I've cracked up.
All right. Anyway,
so
what's our next?
Speaking of ergonomic keyboards, on a bit of a more serious note, it's definitely, I think, Jesse, you'll have a good amount of input on. Do you guys believe that keyboard ergonomics are overlooked by both manufactured keyboards and even, custom keyboards that people build? Do you think that ergonomics are typically just overlooked in the design process? Because, like, at least with customs that Brian and I usually get, the only term of ergonomics that they consider is what angle are they going to kill your wrists?
Yeah, because at that point, it's all about the aesthetic. It's all about how big and heavy you can make it, and it's a very traditional form factor. Usually, it's a very slight angle. and there's nothing more to it. There's not really very many like ergonomic features with it.
Oh yeah. No, I'd say like 3/4 of the keyboard factories we went to that claim to be OEMs and ODMs that could do design of a keyboard. We get into talking and they're like, "Oh, it's not a rectangle, and the keys aren't in the normal layout." That's not what we mean by being able to customize the keyboard. We meant like, putting flames on it or making the enclosure have like red or a dragon. Like the thing we built, we got a lot of WTF from a lot of factories. In the very beginning, we actually went and talked to. There's an ergonomics research lab at Berkeley run by a professor who's been doing this for a long time. They do a lot of consulting for Microsoft and Logitech, and so like those two companies have put a lot of effort into the ergonomics. But so one of the parts of ergonomics is called biomechanics, and that's how do your fingers and hands work. We were initially a little concerned. We wanted to make sure that the thumb mark wasn't going to be something that was going to hurt people's thumbs, that this is an okay motion. And that the palm key, which you get by sort of dropping like that, wasn't going to screw up your wrists. And what we got told is that, no, our biomechanics are great, but that it's weird. And so, like, that our keyboard is weird and might be off-putting for people who aren't into keyboards. And it took a while to convince them that no, we know that. The goal is not to sell. This is not a 100,000 unit keyboard. This is, this is something for a very special market. We were warned that when Apple came out with the Apple ergonomic keyboard, it was a total disaster because they only sold 10,000 a month. I would love to have that kind of disaster. Absolutely love it.
Terrible numbers.
Oh, that would be horrible. That would just be completely unsustainable business. But for the most part, the hobbyists do a better job than the commercial manufacturers. Because the commercial manufacturers are all looking for things where they're going to sell 50,000, 100,000, 500,000 of them. And most of the enthusiasts are building one. And like a lot of enthusiasts are building for looks, but a lot of them are also building for feel. The fact that a lot of people are doing ortholinears makes me a little bit happy. It's better than the stagger that you have on a traditional keyboard, but still, your hands are not like this. You do not type like this. You type like this. And so, there's a bunch of good stuff out there.
Yeah. I can't think of anything on the market that is as ergonomic as a Keyboardio, now that we've had this discussion. Mm-hmm. But there are other options. I know there is an ergonomic LZ board.
Yep,
that is shaped like a Microsoft ergonomic 2000 or whatever 4000. So there's that. Obviously, there's things like the Let's Split, the Ergo Docks, lesser known ones like
there's the Type Matrix. There's the Multron, which is essentially where the Kinesis came from. There is the truly ergonomic. I'm trying to think. I mean, there's some really weird stuff out there, like the Orbit Touch, where you're moving a pair of domes around to type.
Data hand. With its cool little Hall effect sensors and wells. Oh, man, I love the concept of that keyboard so much.
Well, if you come to the Bay Area Keyboard Meetup in November, we'll have ours there.
I'll be there because I'm one of the organizers. So everyone in chat, if you guys want to try out a data hand, if you guys don't know what a data hand is,
you want to try one.
You should look it up, and you should be excited to go to the meetup if you want to try one. Data hand.
Yeah.
Great concept.
We'll bring our data hand. The TouchStream vanished off the face of the earth like 15 years ago. They had this pair of slightly ergonomic layout, multi-touch surface keyboard where the touch areas would get bigger or smaller based on what word it thought you were typing. You could do app-specific gestures, and they're folks whose careers it saved. And overnight, the company vanished. And then a couple years later, Apple came out with this iPhone thing with this multi-touch surface, and it turns out Apple bought them to become the multi-touch stuff behind iOS devices. I'm trying to think what other mainstream-ish ergo boards are out there. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff in the hobby plus, like small-scale manufacturing. But the biggies are really Microsoft and Logitech. And they need to be more accessible. They need to not look different. And so Microsoft is like, every year they've revved their keyboard and made it just a little bit more ergonomic. And so they've basically been slowly softening up the market for people to understand that maybe a rectangle isn't the right thing to type on.
It's a great way to put it. And now we must do the news.
We must.
We must. Switch the news viewer. Brian, since you were gone last week, why don't you give a little shout out?
Yeah. Awesome. So, for those that might have seen the last episode, I was viciously kicked off of Top Clack by my internet provider, which is Comcast. Unfortunately. So I've been having a lot of internet trouble over the last week or so. Today I've been pretty stable, so hoping to last the entire show. So we will try to roll with that. So we did apparently touch on this a little bit last week, but I will bring it up once more because it is about to end, the whole giveaway donation portion of it at the very least. So they are doing a Stand Up for Houston thing because of the hurricane, and there's a lot of backers for this. A lot of community vendors and artisans and the like are donating this. There is a raffle. If you donate $10 to any of the listed charities and provide proof that you did that, you will be entered for the raffle. And there's a lot of really cool stuff there. So that's something to consider if you want to be a nice person and potentially win something cool. I did donate, and maybe hopefully I'll win something cool. I don't know. But either way, really cool stuff. I'm glad they're putting this together. And I'm scrolling through the list of what they have to give away.
It's a lot to give away.
Insane. Yeah, this is really, really cool. Oh man, really good stuff. So definitely make sure to check that out. Donate if you can and you wish, so we can all help people out and do the right thing.
Indeed. So, we talked a little bit about Kinesis earlier, and they're in the news this week. They debuted the new Kinesis Freestyle Edge at PAX, which happened last week, and it's a split keyboard.
You know what?
Split keyboard, like
this would make a pretty good nunchuck. But, anyways, go on. Very, very cool.
It's going to have Cherry MX keys, red, blue, or brown, so that's a bit more options than you would have with the normal Kinesis Advantage. So you just use Cherry MX keycaps.
I think the Advantage actually let you do all three of those. The reds are the odd man out, but they have it as a special order usually.
Oh, okay.
The browns got developed, but like Cherry built them for Kinesis in the very beginning.
Yeah, I actually looked that up when I did my review because they're the only ones who get from Cherry the slots for the diodes to fit the diodes in the switch, because their diodes go where you normally have the two holes for the LEDs. Those are for their diodes, which I was like, that's genius, because they don't have.
That's where they were in the beginning. Like a bunch of old boards I have all have pre-seated diodes.
Like that makes so much sense. If you don't have SMD diodes. So it's Cherry MX compatible. I mean, I wish there weren't Cherry switches, but they are. Layout looks fine. It's fully programmable with their own smart set app for Kinesis Gaming, so it's a gaming marketed board, it looks like.
The layout looks a little bit more standard, but there are still some non-standard things there. I wish they were able to make a little bit more of a standard thing, so it could be used with more Cherry MX keysets.
Yeah.
See, the thing that this doesn't do, that the the Keyboardio Model 1 does do is have the keycaps sculpted particularly for that keyboard, whereas these are just normal keycaps on a split ergonomic board. So I feel like there's not really a reason to have like a non-standard layout there unless it's for the actual purpose of ergonomics.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't compared to see if this is exactly the same layout as the non-MX Freestyle, but they've had the split regular Freestyle for a really long time, and a lot of people are really sad about the fact that it was I believe scissors, and so it is really nice to see them merging high quality switches into something that is a flat split board, which is way more approachable to a lot of the market than the bowl shape of the Advantage.
Yes. So one interesting thing. So the normal price tag, it says, is $219, and that's just the split keyboard. If you want the tenting lift package, that's another $25, and the palm rests are another $12. That's kind of steep adding all that up, because like if I wanted that in this kind of style, I would probably just get the Matthias Ergo Pro, because it comes with tenting and tilting and nice wrist rests for $200.
Way cheaper. Yeah.
200 plus change, something like that. So,
though it is nice that they're doing their reprogrammable firmware thing, which is it's presumably an Atmel chip like the Advantage 2. I don't know of anyone having built custom firmware for it yet, but there's no reason you shouldn't be able to.
I made a big mistake this year, and I did not go to PAX. Seattle is pretty close to me, and normally I do go, but I did not go this year, and now I kind of wish I did so I could play around with stuff like this.
Let's go next year, Brian.
Well, Kinesis is up in Washington. You could probably
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, no, they assemble in Washington. You could probably get them to. I wonder if you could get them to appear on an episode hosted from their office.
Do you happen to know what city they're in?
I don't off the top of my head, though. A quick Google should tell it. Like, I can't. Yeah.
That's what works for.
Yeah. Also, Signature's up there.
Yeah, Signature Classics.
Yeah,
they're Custer.
They're very far away from where I am, though. They're on like way up there.
Yeah.
Come on, Wikipedia, don't let me down. Alright, Wikipedia's letting me down.
For the price, though, I think, like, because if I had the Kinesis Freestyle Edge, I don't see how someone could justify getting an ergonomic keyboard like this without adding in the tenting kit, without adding in the wrist rests, because you're going to kill yourself if you get, like, for example, the tenting kit but not the wrist rests, and you don't really need the
Depends
wrist
on your
rests.
tent.
That's true. That is very true.
Or whether you actually had piano lessons as a kid.
But I mean, I think it definitely kind of corresponds to what you were mentioning earlier with Microsoft and Logitech. The fact that more people are doing any kind of ergonomic, whether or not it's split, does, I guess, ripen the market more to be more accepting to this path, which is good.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, they have a showroom. They're in
Bothell. Yeah. Okay. That's not terribly far away from me.
But I didn't realize they actually had a showroom.
That's pretty cool. I definitely want to check this out. I could do like a little Top Clack tour if they let me stream or something.
I think next year I'm in Seattle. I need to come a week early and set up some interviews.
Yeah.
But yeah,
all right.
This is the Kinesis Gaming Freestyle. I hate they have gaming in the name.
Freestyle Edge.
Freestyle Edge, because they're so edgy. But yeah, check it out if you're bored with other ergonomic boards. You want the one that's MX compatible, that isn't going to be expensive as the VEA, but is more, But otherwise, I mean, if you want to get, super high-end, there's always the customs, there's Keyboardio, and other different options like the Kinesis Advantage, and etc., etc. But this is another option. Options are good, as Brian and I always say. Speaking of things that are good, shout out to RMK, because we hit 200,000 subscribers on the subreddit.
Awesome.
So
6 days ago.
6 days ago. So I'm sure everyone in chat probably already knows, but in case you don't, Reddit.com/RMK Mechanical Keyboards is the #1 keyboard community in the world in terms of just population. Over 200,000 subs. We're in the top 500 subs of Reddit. I forgot what number we are exactly.
It's like 430 something as of today.
Yeah.
399 over 1 million subreddits and 284 in terms of recent activity.
Oh, cool. Okay, I just got to the top 500.
It's still a little unfair comparing RMK to something like GCAC or Desk Authority.
Very true.
Just because of the way Reddit is designed.
Yes, because we get a lot of...
It's a lot easier to join RMK because you click one thing than it is to join something like GCAC, which is a lot more focused.
Mm-hmm. Any passerby who sees a front page RMK post will be like, oh, that's a great picture Will26 posted. I want to find out more about this hobby. Subscribe.
Exactly. And, you know, we show 200,000 subscribers for this particular RMK forum, but realistically, it's not anywhere even nearly remotely close to that many active users.
At least for the active users. Active users is like 1%.
Probably like a couple thousand.
But it's still good.
It's still great. Don't get me wrong.
If the bigger number grows, that means there's more people who will end up being active members. Because some people who do just find out about us end up, as we all know, end up getting really into this hobby somehow.
And the numbers are always going to grow. That's not going to change. We're ever growing, and it's going faster and faster. We've had over 1,000 people subscribe to RMK in the last 6 days since that post.
Yay!
Awesome.
So, shout out to the mods as well for doing their job, moderating so many crazy people.
Well, to be fair, there isn't really any moderation that happens.
I mean, that's kind of like why it works, I guess, right? It's kind of like laissez-faire moderation.
Free speech type of place.
Okay, Ryan, I think this next news topic kind of tickles your pickle a bit.
Yep, my pickle is currently being tickled by GMK 9009, which I am actually using right now even. So there is coming a round 2, which is very cool. This one's run by user JanGlad, and there's some differences from the last one. There's a couple icon differences. Not a ton of information yet, but it is coming. Did I post this link? Yes, I did. Okay, so. Yeah, if you're a big 9009 fan like myself, and you like that boring but classic beige kind of thing, definitely check this out. Follow the GCAC thread. Trying to see if he actually has some more info here. Last time I looked at the thread, I don't think there was. Okay, so he has a little bit of info here, but there is also the GCAC thread. So he's trying to keep it as close to $140 US as he can, which is pretty reasonable still. He has a kit breakdown. It does look about as good as it gets for GMK. Yeah,
so, I think has some pretty good compatibility. It works for everything. It's, as Brian and I agree, a pretty great colorway.
Yeah, and in before people are slinging the round 1 9009 for $400 on Mech Market.
That already came in pass. I think the highest I saw it was $420, but the normal amount for this round 1 I usually see is around between $200 to $280 when they bought it at like $150 or less.
Having seen what the other side of this is for like what it costs to make these things, it's
painful.
Fascinating. It is fascinating.
Fascinating. That's the ultimate PR way to put it.
Well, I mean, it's like $4 of plastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. But anyways, if you're forced to be a sucker like people like Huey and I, and you want 9009, then your chance is coming.
Yeah.
Gorgeous, artistically produced, well-curated plastic is still gorgeous and artistically produced and well-curated.
Makeup on a pig. All right.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to hold that pig still.
But that's coming out soon. We're going to get more information on that as well. Speaking of things that people probably want more information on, the Rama and Originative Oco collab that has been teased on Originative news site Kbdfans keyboardist, Kbdfans.
Kbdfans.
Kbdfans. It's supposed to be keyboardist, but no one reads it that way.
It was an interestingly chosen name. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, everyone just calls it Kbdfans now. Yeah, it's a case. Does the sides remind me a bit of the M65?
Yeah, but it has this weight that goes through it, and you can actually see it instead of just on the bottom. You can see it on both sides, which I thought was really, really neat. Obviously, Rama tends to do pretty high quality products, and I don't think this is going to be an exception. I think it looks not only very good, but very Rama.
Looks very Rama. But
if you're a fan of the M65, you'll probably like this too. A pretty similar design. Like the edges have very similar of a look. The bezels very similar of a look. Something I've seen a couple people complain a little bit about is the just the inconsistency with the top and bottom bezel. The top bezel is quite a bit larger, kind of like it would be on like a Real Force TKL.
Mm-hmm.
Some people aren't quite into that. Personally, I don't really care. I'll probably get one of these unless it's outrageously expensive.
It probably will be.
In which case, I will cry myself to sleep.
Cry yourself into debt.
They need to send you review units.
We wish. We're working on that. Yeah. We're working on that.
If
Rama,
Sherry, Rama, if both of you are watching,
yes, send Brian the best.
Top Clack needs some review samples. I don't know. We try not to be too greedy here.
Yeah, but it is definitely decent looking. Definitely decent looking. But yeah, it's teased right now. We don't really have any more information at the moment, so I guess we're going to be sitting tight and sitting pretty until we hear more. So I talked a little bit about this last week before we had some major news drop. So Brian, what's the rundown on this Pearl 40% that
so last time
is doing?
Yeah, so last time on the show it was more of a teaser, but since then there has been more information posted about it. So if you check out the Geek Hack thread that I linked in the Twitch chat, you'll be able to see all sorts of info and pictures, and there is a lot of both of them. He has physical samples now. They look really cool, if I'm being totally honest. It's a high-profile 40%. It's got the HHKB blockers. There's indicator cutouts in the right blocker. It's really cool. He's got a little logo there on the back. He's got a big brass weight that goes on the bottom. And this is a beautiful keyboard, if I'm being totally honest. And I can't wait to hopefully own one of these at some point.
Yeah, I kind of want to get one pretty badly.
It's really cool.
So, Brian, you weren't here last week when I talked about it a little bit. But one thing, actually, I do want to bring up. Is the community ready for USB-C keyboards? Because, personally, I'm not. I don't even have a single USB-C port on my computer or on my dongle that I use.
Oh, it's worth it. It's so worth it.
Everyone tells me it's worth it, but, I'd be getting a cable for a single board. I have no other peripherals or technologies that use it yet. But maybe I'm just a caveman. Could be the issue.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. In the keyboard community, what does USB-C grant you over what we're currently using? In the keyboard
and power at the same time.
So the power you're actually fine with. You can easily draw an amp and a half over a traditional connector, but Type-C connectors are more reliable. They're good for longer cycles, and you don't put them in upside down ever. It's so nice. They're also the physical spec of the connector is part of the standard, how it mounts to the PCB. So it means that the board if you're designing a board, you don't have to stick to one manufacturer's connector, which means that you can you don't get stuck if one manufacturer runs out of stock, which does happen. As far as I know, Input Club is Type-C for their new stuff, and we went Type-C. When we started, individual connectors were $14. Thankfully, we knew they'd come down, and they have come down. They're now good connectors are south of 30 cents. The cables have really good retention. They are a much better. I find them to be a better sort of locking fit than other stuff. And more like modern Android phones are Type-C. My new laptop charges over Type-C, so I can use my laptop charger to show off the keyboard's LEDs, which is a little bit of a special case. The last time I traveled, I didn't have any micro connectors, any micro cables anymore. It was all Type-C.
Yeah. So I guess getting back to that question, yes, but it needs to be. So USB-C has been a thing for a few years now, and we still have very, very little integration with it, even in keyboards. Anywhere. But like Jesse said, there are things happening with it, but I feel like it hasn't been introduced as fast as it should have been. I think we're behind a little bit.
I think, personally, it won't be big in keyboards until one of the big three, whether it's Razer, Corsair, or Logitech, one of the big three switches completely to C. Otherwise, I don't see much desire for any of the other manufacturers or even custom designers to usually use C, just because everyone is still using A and Mini.
It shocks me. Well, we ship an A to C cable. That's and like we're USB 2. Most keyboards only need to be USB 2, and doing USB 2 over C is pretty easy. Pretty easy. It shocks me that people use Mini still, because Mini is not. It's not rated as reliable as Micro. At least nobody's still using like traditional USB B. Because that connector is absolutely nuts.
This topic really got the Twitch chat going finally.
I know. When you talk about cables, people
talking about USB-C, everyone's like, "Oh my god, here's my opinion."
We went through like 4 cable vendors before we got to somebody that we liked and that worked.
Yeah. The bottom line here, I guess, learning points. USB-C is clearly a better product. It's what we should be using. But for whatever reason, we're not.
But those of you who will get the Pearl 40% will be using that. And let's really quickly just go through some of these details. 6-degree incline, nice and easy, not all the way flat, but not duck style.
That's a good middle ground.
Yeah, bootmapper client, great for Brian and I, easy to program, bad for people who can actually program. I heard, don't quote me on this, but I've heard a couple people tell me that you can actually get QMK on PCBs that use bootmapper. I've heard that. I
don't know if there's some kind of hack, some kind of workaround.
Do you know what chip is in a bootmapper client PCB?
Usually an Atmel 32.
Yeah, 30.
So QMK runs on a 32U4. So yes, of course you could do that.
Yeah. So for those of you more tech-centric people,
that's a thing.
that
could be too.
A thing.
One thing I really like about this keyboard, though, Cherry and Alp switch compatibility.
Nice.
Options.
That is big. Very cool.
Great.
Yeah. Check this out. You even have options for wrist rests and sleeves.
He's going
and
the full
different
service.
USB cables. So this is really, really cool.
Yeah, and you can get a cable with this because I think they know people like me I don't even own a USB-C cable because I don't have a single USB-C product. So that's great when I decide to probably go into this unless it's ridiculously expensive.
My USB-C ports on my motherboard have been completely unused since I built the PC in 2015 or whatever. So, give me a reason to use this.
But yeah, I like this case. I want it to go well. I will probably possibly get it.
Yeah. I mean, so this is another kind of scenario where aesthetic really takes the front seat and functionality does just about nothing here. Because typically the idea with a 40% is you want the most functionality you can get for the space that you have. And obviously, even though personally I love the appearance of blockers, on a 40%, that's a lot of space that could have been used for keys. A lot of people argue that. So this is one of those boards where I really think it's a lot more aesthetically pleasing over functional. Obviously, I'd still use it because I have very little special needs for keyboards. Like, this would work totally fine for me. But it's interesting to see that kind of shift in the community with other things like the JD45 that also has block corners. You know, we're seeing kind of a shift in 40% where it's less keys and more keyboard, like housing, which I think is really cool because I'm not the type of person that needs tons and tons of keys, but I don't know, just an interesting thought. Anyways, the keyboard looks great, the weight looks great, housing looks great.
We got a lot of details, but we don't, a lot of options, but we don't have a price yet. So I think most people are going to be like us, sitting pretty and waiting for Kuba to hit us with the price number.
So he does say all should be done in a few months with a fixed price between $250 and $300. I assume that's US. That's a little heftier than I was expecting, but at the same time, it's obviously still quite a bit cheaper than a lot of like 60% customs, especially Korean customs or bigger. So
milling and anodizing aluminum in small quantities gets pricey.
Definitely. So it's a very beautiful keyboard, but clearly you're not going to be paying a little bit for this. You're actually going to be paying a little bit for it. So I'm not totally adverse to that price, especially $250 seems like it's fairly reasonable for that particular style and amount of metal and the features and options it comes with. That's not too bad.
So, check out the interest check, and if you guys get a chance in chat, I think it's something worth your interest at any rate, at least to check out, because this is a really well-planned product.
The designer is really cool too. I talk to him every now and then, and he's a really nice guy. He's got good ideas. He's good at rendering stuff, and I've been told there is a very, very slight chance I will be getting a review unit of one of these to build it and kind of show it off and stuff. I probably will not be able to keep it, but even if I could get it and show it off and do a build stream and, you know, display it on the show, that would be really cool.
That would be amazing. I hope you do get one. If you need me to help beg, I can help you beg as well. This is a team beg exercise.
I didn't even ask. He was like, I'm pretty sure he was like, hey, like, do you wanna maybe build one of these and like show it off or something? And I was like, yeah, I do. Yeah. Give me one of those.
Okay, let's move on to something quite interesting. So a lot of you know that Kailh has unveiled these low-profile switches that are still mechanical, but we haven't really had a use in our community for them because their pins are different than MX-style pins, and their mounting is, I think, different, possibly different as well.
They're ML compatible. I believe they're ML compatible.
They are ML compatible.
So you can't use these on MX PCBs.
Woodkeys.click is doing a group buy for a 40% ortholinear PCB for these switches. No plate, just nice, easy PCB mount, which is fine when they're so skinny and slim.
These are designed to be PCB mount. Kailh has been trying to interest me in building with them.
which is kind of interesting because if you actually scroll down on the page, there are options for stainless steel plates. So I'm curious how that works in addition to the PCB.
You know what? I think about it. I have some old ML boards that have, like, they mount fine on a PCB, but you can put. But I assume that they've got plate. I have some switches around here somewhere, but I don't know where to look at.
So would it be kind of like there is just no clearance between the plate and PCB, whereas with an MX switch there is clearance between the plate and PCB?
I am going to, on my other laptop, attempt to pull up the data sheet that Kailh sent me the other day.
Sounds
cool.
Good. And while you do that, I do want to talk a little bit. Okay, something really interesting, and in my opinion, if you get this, super worth it. It's $20 for the SMD diodes to be soldered for you. Which, if you're lazy, that's not a bad option. Because if you're not experienced with soldering SMD diodes, they're a real pain. Absolute pain. The only way I know that they're really efficient is if you're Hata, and Hata has these tweezers that are soldering on both sides, and he tells me he just pops them on and boop, both sides soldered.
Josh at Plugable also has those solder tweezers. Apparently they're not terribly expensive to get a pair. But yeah, a hot air rework station will also be a bit more functional. But if you only have access to like a normal soldering iron, not the most fun experience you'll probably ever have.
No. pricing and everything looks decent for what it is. I mean, so you got $18 for the PCB. Next, you need to get your controller. $650 for the Pro Micro. Another $18 for the switches. $14 for keycaps. Plate is optional, but ranges between $10 and $25. If you want SMD LEDs, which you can get it for $4. Another $20 as well if you want the LEDs to be soldered in, which are also SMD.
So, interestingly enough, the options for the controller are the Pro Micro and another controller that I don't think we've really seen in the keyboard community, the Adafruit. Yeah, the Adafruit Feather BLE, which he's charging $30.
Chips are good.
Oh yeah, I'm not questioning its quality, but it's interesting because normally your options in this keyboard community, it's like either the Pro Micro or a tease.
Right.
So it's interesting to see another alternative there. I wonder what the design thought behind that was.
Well, if it's BLE, like Adafruit has a Adafruit is paid to get the thing qualified, so it's like the FCC is cool with it. There is good dock. Okay. There's good dev tools. You can buy it in quantity. All right, so I have a data sheet here for the Kailh switch, and it does look like there's like a millimeter of clearance. I can, after we get off, I could totally send it to you guys, and you can put it up somewhere.
Yeah.
If you care.
Okay. Sure.
And yeah, and then this is what the switches look like on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually have samples of these.
Oh, awesome! You know, Kailh's offered us like them and the new box switches. They all look like good products. Originally, these low-profile Kailh switches were they were in a 1-year lockup with a very large company that I don't think ever used them.
Interesting.
I'm trying to actually find mine.
It's all good.
They are pretty cool though. But so novelkeys.xyz actually sells them right now. As far as I'm aware, I can only find one of them. I have this is the brown. So the brown and the blue are actually they're pretty good. The one linear that I have, the one red, granted I only have one of them, is incredibly scratchy. Like I would not want to use a full board of that unless I just got like a really particularly bad one. But the tactile and the clicky ones are quite good. And nice. They are for sale at novelkeys.xyz. And I thought it was kind of interesting for him to put that product out when there's at the time was nothing that you could use it for.
Yeah.
So I guess just expected other people to design their own PCBs, basically.
Like, I mean, but you can also use them in a PCB that was originally designed for MLs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Now, I've been toying with the idea of doing a mechanical keyboard case for an iPad with them.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be good use for them.
Yeah, it's like I want something low profile that's still a mech board. Like, it would make your iPad have maybe an okay keyboard. I'd probably still prefer to go with full height switches, but it gets a little chunky.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so if you're into this kind of new project, definitely give this a check out. It looks like you get keycaps with it, which is pretty cool.
No, keycaps are $14.
Well, I mean, you have the option to get them with it. Sorry.
Each set comes with 112 keys.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's actually some capacity.
There's 48 keys on the keyboard, but you get 112. So.
Yeah, that's.
You can build 2 keyboards and have some spares in case.
Exactly. At least it's nice. They're shine through. I think they're all right. I mean, they're like laptop keys. So.
That's what they used to be used for.
Yeah.
That's like, yeah.
They probably don't feel amazing, but you know what? They're almost your only option.
Yeah. So, go get an old Cherry ML board if you want some fancy, some German
slightly
cherry
fancier.
Yellowed ML keys.
There's actually some decent new old stock on eBay.
Yeah, and they are nicer. They do look nicer than these ones.
Yes.
IMO.
Okay.
All right.
Check this out when you guys get a chance if you're interested in checking out a new Switch or just building another keyboard. what do we have next? Just a quick shout out. I'm not going to play the video or anything, but a lot of you may be active on YouTube every now and then, like I am. There's a really famous, quote famous, YouTube reviewer, Kairosan22. He reviews a lot of boards, especially a lot of vintage boards. He did a really good review on a Beam Spring recently. I just want to do a quick shout out to him. He hit 10,000 subs on YouTube. In my opinion, he's one of the best keyboard reviewers there is. If you guys want to ever see some good, interesting reviews, feel free to check out his channel for his 10K subs. He's a little video on like how he does his reviews and this and that. Great watch. Very interesting guy.
He's got a lovely voice.
He is probably the best keyboard reviewer voice.
More importantly, he's wearing a Quake shirt in this video. I approve of that.
He knows. He knows. Okay. Keep.io. They are quite ambitious, launching 3 interest checks at once. They're all related, but it is still 3 interest checks at once. It's for their new Trifecta. I'm sorry. It's for the Levinson, the Iris, and the Vertibi keyboards, which are the first one is a LED split with LED backlighting and 2U thumb support. The second one is a 50% split ergo, and the third one is a 5x7 split ortho.
Okay.
Quite a few options. Maybe a bit much on their plate at once, but
maybe. I mean, they're all fairly simple, if nothing else.
Split keyboards as well.
Have they? I'm not really familiar with them. Have they shipped other stuff before?
I am also not familiar with this company. This is the first time I've heard about them.
Kbdfans. They mostly do.
I'm not thrilled with their name. What with the similarity to?
It looks, yeah, that's really similar to Keyboardio. Just having Kebio, Key.io.
Yeah. Yeah, they just have a Let's Split. They call it there's the Nyquist. It's not Let's Split. It's a 60% split, but it's also ortho.
Yeah, they have a couple products in their store. They're probably fairly new.
Yeah, it does look like it.
But if they've shipped those 2 products before, that's a lot better than have never shipped anything.
Yes. Oh, for sure. The Iris actually looks pretty cool. It has like some fun buttons that are splayed out a little bit.
I do like all boards have MX and Alps compatibility. Like, hey, good for you guys.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the Iris with those thumb keys are interesting. For me, it would solve the problem I had with the Ergodox, which is the same as you, Jesse, where the Ergodox thumb keys, they're so awkward. It's like people realize
they did not fit me. Well, the Ergodox is basically a flattened Kinesis. It's the same. It is the
same vertical spacing, I believe.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, maybe it's because like I have Asian hands and some of the farther thumb keys were a bit difficult for me. But
I've got giant American hands. It doesn't work for me either.
I have gianter American hands.
Fair enough.
If I had to get one of these 3 boards, I'd get the Iris.
For sure, yeah. Well, the other 2 like really aren't. I mean, the Levinson is a LED split with 2U thumb compatibility, and then the Viterbi is just like a little bit longer plunk. That's split. So it's a slightly bigger LED split.
I guess everything is pretty cheap. Base kits without switches are $20 for all of them. Cases for all of them are all $35.
Stainless steel cases, $35. It's not too bad.
The normal case, the case made from the PCB material is $15. This unprinted circuit board, I guess.
And they're based in the States. Yeah, they're based in the States.
Yeah.
If they're actually building that stuff in the U.S., those prices are actually really good.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you want to get your split ortho fix going on, then definitely check out these.
split ortho. It's a big thing. It's a big. It's a big niche now, right?
It's getting a lot bigger.
It's definitely carved their own sphere within the RMK crowd. Like I don't know. You haven't really seen previous episodes, Jesse, but I have ever so affectionately call these people the splitters, because these are people they'll. It's a bit different from what you did, because there's a lot of people in the community who take any existing layout and split it for the sake of splitting it.
Mm-hmm.
Which a lot of people do like. It does add a level of ergonomics, because at least when you split it, you can, at least do this.
No, it's good. It makes it, I approve of splitting keyboards. So, I mean, and a split ortho is certainly better than a single part ortho. The nice thing is also that they are relatively straightforward boards to design and route if it's earlier in your PCB design career.
Yeah. See, Jesse's actually a moderator at r/splitters.
Now that I know it exists, perhaps I will join.
I don't think it exists.
It's all good. Maybe it should.
But if you're interested in more split ortho boards, check these 3 out, because here are 3 more options to add to your plethora of existing PCB and hand-wired options people love to do. So, next up, we have a little group buy going on by, once again, woodkeys.split, which is custom stainless steel plates. Any layout, no MOQ. It's running till Monday, September 11th. So you just give them the design you want, and they'll make a stainless steel case for you, or a plate for you.
That seems convenient. At the same time, it seems maybe a little expensive. The 60% is $38 plus $10 shipping in the continental U.S. So $48 shipped for a 60% steel plate is historically pretty pricey.
I would spend the extra money and go up to $55 to get a brass plate from 1UP.
Brass is soft. Brass bends. But I mean, I guess if you don't have access to a laser, or CNC or water jet that's capable of cutting aluminum, and they're soup to nutsing it, yes, it's money, but it's money for service.
It's cheaper than Big Blue Saw, buying a one-off from them.
Yeah.
So I think that's the main appeal for most people.
Yeah, I think the need here is if you need something that isn't offered anywhere else.
Yeah.
If you need something very particular, because otherwise there are several vendors you can go to, buy a 60% steel plate for definitely cheaper than this.
Mm-hmm. Or tech shop or a makerspace and learn how to make one.
Yep.
We just got a laser, so I'm really excited about starting to prototype new layouts with acrylic or plywood again.
Oh man,
that'll
be fun.
Top Clack will be expecting those review samples.
So I have been. The CEO has prohibited me from ever hand wiring a board again. It's just not worth. It's not worth the amount of time for what is ultimately a not very reliable board. Thankfully, now I know how to design PCBs, and our KiCad setup is such that I can export a plate design from the electronics design.
Ooh, that's a nice 2-in-1.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're interested in plates, mostly, like Brian said, if you're interested in mostly odd size or layout plates, check out this group buy, because otherwise if you want like a standard 60%, you do have better options on the markets.
Yeah, I will say in his defense, something that is a little bit better is you can get non-standard, non-universal 60% plates. So for instance, if you're like Huey and I and you like an HHKB layout and you don't want to use a universal plate, so that's a pretty big deal.
A smaller deal, but still a deal for some people, is at least you can choose between 16 and 18 gauge steel. So some people like it thicker, some people like it thinner.
I mean, this is steel, not aluminum.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it is very nice that it's going to be steel, because steel is real.
Nice.
All right, Huey.
Okay,
Good
actually,
stuff.
Brian, this is a topic I kind of wanted to hear your input on as we go over it. The beta sign up for Agora Mech has opened up. Agora Mech is supposed to be a new marketplace for mechanical keyboards. Brian, you used to be a mod over at our our Mech Market. And this is supposed to be, I guess, an alternative, but it's kind of a hard sell, mostly because, like, there's going to be a charge associated with listing keyboards.
Oh, okay.
Listing, not sale.
I think no, for the sale. Sorry, if
So-
you secure a sale, you'll be the person behind it, Cotton Chris, still hasn't finalized the numbers between if it'll be like a subscription, so you can list an unlimited amount of things, or like you pay a certain percent or a certain small fee for a sold item. But that kind of sounds compared to like Mech Market, which is free, but they're trying to do things with this. I mean, I don't want to be so negative out of the gates.
Yeah.
What's their
So
advantage?
obviously you can't see the site right now. Like you sign up for a limited beta, but you can't just go to the site and look at it and see how it's structured and everything. So I think if you're trying to essentially be eBay for keyboards, which is what it's like kind of seeming like, you take a fee and everything, you really need to offer something extra that Mech Market cannot. Because if this is just a direct competitor to Mech Market but another platform and maybe it looks a little bit nicer, once you start charging people, I don't know about that. I think you really need to offer something that you can't get anywhere else if you're going to be charging
So from the
people.
first post that Cotton Chris posted, it seems like at most a minor convenience thing. For example, they say like the ultimate difference, this is the verbatim, the ultimate difference is that you will be able to post an item and have someone instantly purchase it if they'd like. There will be no searching through post after post of plank keyboards, finding one you want, messaging the seller just to find out it was sold over a week and a half ago. Posts on the site will be available if they are purchased/sold. They will not remain on this. If they are purchased or sold, they will not remain on the sites.
So it's more like a classified site, like a straight up classified, like web shop. It's like
Craigslist for
But like
keyboards,
on Mech
not
Market,
local.
we have flair on Mech Market. You should be flaring your post. If something sells, flare that it's sold. That way, people won't be confused.
right.
They say so.
So
Their
that's
overall
just
mission
people being
statement is
lazy.
they say overall we're trying to make the browsing for MKs and MK related items much more smooth and convenient.
I do agree that this definitely can be good if it goes in the right direction, because for our growing community, Mech Market can only be sustained the way that market works for so long. Like, you can't just have a single feed of people posting stuff and have it be like easy to browse for very long. Once the community gets too large, you're just like, there's a post every 30 seconds and you're just browsing through stuff, and it's not elegant, and it's hard to find what you're actually after. So I do think an alternative is very good. I'd like to see how this plays out. Hopefully it's not a lot of money to use, and even if it is, I hope it has a lot of better features.
So I mentioned earlier about the costs. Cotton Chris does mention there are costs to running a site. They haven't settled on a specific fee on whether or not there'll be a monthly membership option or paying X% per item sold. According to Cotton Chris, it will be decided before the beta officially launches. So I guess probably next week or the week after, soon, we'll have a better idea on how this is supposed to be structured.
Right. Like, are they going to do credit card processing for you, or is the transaction still between you, buyer and seller?
I would assume they would. I mean, if they're not doing that for you, Mech Market then, like I would understand it a bit more if they kind of went like the FBA, fulfilled by Amazon route, where like they hold on to inventory when it buys, they take care of shipping and all. But that's like a infrastructure.
That's a business.
That's a business. That's like
There's liability there.
Exactly. That's like the step that I think would be like a big step, but that's probably too big of a step for the community at the moment. I don't know. What do you guys think about, at least from what we have right now?
The bottom line is this could be a very good thing. it also could not be a very good thing. It's too early to tell. We need to see once the actual beta launches, people get their hands on being able to use the site, and we get some more feedback from it. It's too early to tell right now.
The beta will go live, set to launch on October 1st. So I guess in a little under a month, we'll have more information. It will be free to browse, and only I think people who are listing will have to pay either membership or fee per item sold, undecided, according to.
Hopefully they open to listers before they open to browsers, because it's never fun to go to a store that has nothing on the shelves yet.
Exactly. I wonder if this store will have some kind of feedback system.
Yes,
Since Mech Market does have like a flare.
Implementing a feedback system and a reviewing system to review buyers and sellers.
Okay, good. So kind of like a built-in heatware kind of thing.
Yeah.
Cool. It will be interesting to see where that goes.
Yes. So
more people trying more things is good.
Definitely. Over at our friends at Kbdfans, they've teased some colored gateron switch tops for when you want to bling your keyboard where only you will know it's blinged. Unless you have like RGB, like a white RGB that can glow the housing. But
yeah.
You say that, Brian, but I mean, like, you know how our community is. People will go crazy about this when it releases, even though no one will know about it until they take their keycaps off.
But single color LEDs are a thing. Like white LEDs are cheaper and lower power to drive bright, and so I feel like somebody else was doing this a while back, like colored switch tops.
Not switch tops. The other I saw someone made like LED covers. If you have like the rectangular LEDs,
oh yeah.
Before. I mean, this is probably less about LED glow and more just about you can pimp out your switches with different colors.
For sure, because even if you use like white LEDs with these switches,
it's still on top of the switch.
It's still on top of the switch, and even if you do SMD or put it inside the switch, which is also a possibility, you're not really going to get a lot of diffusal from it, and there's nothing to cover either.
Oh, it's still got the LED cutout.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's not really a whole lot going on here with the LEDs. Like Huey said, I think this is if you just want your switches to be blinged.
Kbdfans knows their audience. The fact that they are like teasing this, they know we're gonna buy this up. Is
there a price yet?
No, this is just on their blog section. So it's just a tease. Like, hey, we have physical.
These better not be like really expensive.
Maybe it's Chinese April Fools on that day. I don't know.
If these aren't basically the same price as normal gaterons, I'm going to be a little upset. So one thing I did notice is it looks like it uses the milky bottom.
Yes.
And historically, the milky bottom switches come with no pre-lubrication on them. Whereas if you buy a black bottom, clear top gateron switch, they do have a little bit of lube on the legs, which is why they are smoother than the milky variant. So I'm curious to know if this particular version will have any lube on them, because that just makes for a better gateron switch.
I'm curious to see whether or not they'll just sell the switch top separately as well.
I think that would probably be their best approach. I'm surprised they're actually thinking of selling the full switches.
Well, I mean, it's like for a factory setup, they put different additives into the plastic for the tops when they make them, and they just make them the regular way. And so it's like it's almost zero cost to do this. I can't remember if it was Gateron or Gautier where I actually saw a low-end keyboard maker. Rather than buying assembled switches from the factory, they bought the parts from the factory and were paying staff with tweezers to hand assemble switches because it saved them like a quarter cent per switch.
That's
yeah.
I wonder if that saved them manpower when they could have been doing something else.
It was a very small factory. They were like on a third-story walk-up. But even if Gateron isn't selling them retail different, it's you know if you're doing any kind of group by volume, it's always worth writing to sales and asking if they can do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Like what the MOQ is.
Okay, what other things is KBD teasing? The DDmicro wireless 50%. It's probably not pronounced double D, but I want to pronounce it that way, so I will.
But you're going to do it anyways?
Wireless 50% keyboard case. I like how they say it like as if like the keyboard case. I mean, of course, a keyboard case is wireless. It's a case. I assume they mean the keyboard they plan on putting inside of that case. I love the corners of this case. The corners.
This case, yeah, the actual design of the case itself is a home run for me. I really, really, really like this. I wish it were 60%, but I guess I can't have my cake and eat it as well.
Knowing Kbdfans, I wouldn't be surprised if they brought this design to a 60% in the future.
It's possible.
But that is pretty.
The angle looks great. The edges are very, very nice.
It has a cool industrial vibe.
Yeah, industrial is a very good way to describe it.
Just a teaser, but judging by the name, obviously it's hopefully going to be Bluetooth, and this funky layout that they're calling a 50%. One interesting thing, though, according to this render, it does look like the USB port is going to be on the right side. For some people that matters, for some people that doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, if it's wireless, that's just for charging.
That's true.
That's true. And also, this obviously will have a proprietary PCB, so there's no need for any kind of standardization because 50% isn't really a thing. I mean, I guess none of the percents are really a thing until they're made. So now 50% is a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, this looks awesome. Sign me up. I will buy one.
Okay, more Kbdfans tease. I think we did talk about this in the past. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but it's been teased before.
Yeah. Well, when last time we talked about this, they only had a render. Now they have a physical sample of their 90%. I don't know why they call it 90. Just call it compact SK layout. Kbdfans. That's what it is.
Yeah. Oh well.
Sample has not been anodized in a few days. Supposedly they're going to have it anodized. I like the bottom. Reminds me of the CLS. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the bottom that's the same as the KBD75, is it not? It's almost the exact same design.
No. KBD75 doesn't have those nice curves by the top front corners.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyways,
I like it. I like it.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
I want to see how it's going to turn out when it's anodized with like a pretty color.
Yeah, because obviously just like the raw aluminum with all the fingerprints and scratches and stuff on it doesn't make it quite as appealing as if it were properly anodized.
It's a work in progress.
But it is a work in progress. And you know that 1800 style or compact SQ style layouts, those are becoming a lot more popular in the community. So knowing Kbdfans, this will probably be priced pretty reasonably. So you can get your hands on an 1800 style custom for not too much, hopefully.
Yeah, Kbdfans does a pretty good job with pricing these days. Okay, now we have quite the interest check from Utski over in Malaysia. For those of you who don't know Utski, should look him up. But he does group buys and interest checks for some great boards. And this is the CE edition of his TGR 910, which has been shipping out recently. You guys might have seen some pics on RMK or KB Customs, etc. It's basically a 65% keyboard, except they made a blocker in the top right corner for that 910 logo.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this design. Obviously, it's a relatively high-end custom, as TGR boards tend to be.
So if you scroll down the Geek Hack thread, there's actually a picture of an acrylic version of the board, which looks pretty good, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really neat, actually. I'm not gonna lie.
Cool.
As much as I like metal, it looks like there's even a brass weight in the bottom of that you can kind of see through the acrylic, which is really, really awesome. I'd be interested in getting one of these.
Well, if you are, you should definitely fill out that interest check form. There's a Google form posted. It's a prototype, as people in chat are saying. Yusuke is still deciding whether or not he wants to go with an option for acrylic. So that's a Big TBD. But hey, maybe if you're interested, fill out that interest check form, and maybe you can be like, hey, it's an option.
In the initial... Sorry, go ahead.
On that acrylic board, it almost looks like the key switches aren't plain, aren't flat. It almost looks like they're tiered. Like it looks like the back, like just the bottoms.
I see what you're saying.
I wonder if that's an optical illusion, or if that's actually or if it's built like keyboards used to be.
I hope it's the latter, because that would be
cool. I mean, this is
really cool. But
this isn't a render. This is actually.
Oh yeah.
So that is kind of interesting. I bet that's just kind of an optical illusion there, or like some kind of mistake.
Or the caps aren't. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Some kind of anomaly. In the initial post, he does say his very last sentence is, "To keep things simple, brass will be the only switch plate option. I'm hoping to get at least 20 orders. 20 to 30 boards are the sweet spot for me to complete within 8 to 10 weeks' time. Price should be around $300, like the round one."
20 to 30. We'll try 50.
It all depends what his supplier is. You know what his supplier can do.
Yeah, this board will definitely sell 30. No problem. If you guys haven't seen the round ones, you guys definitely should. They look nice.
Cool.
I would buy one of these acrylic ones.
I would buy an acrylic one. I wouldn't buy a normal aluminum one.
I'd have to see the price difference first. Obviously, I'd hope the acrylic one is
cheaper.
Is decently cheaper.
Acrylic or polycarb, whichever one it is cheaper than aluminum most ways you swing it.
Like if you're milling, if you're milling it, it'll mill faster. If you have to make molds, it's the first one is wildly more expensive, and then everyone after it's super cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's round off things with an interest check for GMK Royal Alpha Returns. It's quite the set. I have it right here. I'll pull it out. This is going to be round 2, assuming Donut Cat can get permission from the original designer. Very beautiful with its pad printed sub legends. Nice green on green going on with nice flat whites. Yeah, Brian and I, we always talk about this set because this is a GMK set that almost didn't get produced.
Nobody wanted it.
It was on Mass Drop. It didn't make MOQ. Mass Drop had to extend the buy for a week so they could make the 150 unit MOQ. And they only got like 160, 165 total orders. But months later, it got super popular. I've had people offer me $300 for this set that I paid $140 for. Because there's only 165-ish of them.
Someone, actually, oddly enough, someone in this thread on Reddit says this just sold for $540 on Mech Market a few hours ago. That sounds insane. But this I don't even know if it was 140. I think it was closer to 120 when this set ran on Mass Drop. Like, it was not an expensive GMK set, especially for the time. This was like 2 years ago or 3 years ago when GMK sets were always ran north of 150.
A little bit after Triumph Adler, so everyone was like GMK'd out at that point. So no one wanted to get this set, despite how ever-lovingly beautiful I think it is.
At the time, a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, pad printing! I can't use that.
I will say it is pad printed, but GMK does a better pad printing job than like your normal OEM Dell Rubber Dome.
Unsurprisingly,
I guess they do quality pad printing, as much of an oxymoron as that may be in our community, but it's still better than.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see sets like this and other products float in and out of style so heavily. Because nobody, at like $120, $130, nobody wanted this key set. Nobody wanted it.
I was like,
and now
I had this green board at the time, and as soon as the set ran, I'm like, I have to get this set because it completes this board.
Very interesting, but definitely keep your eyes open for that group buy if you're into that key set, like a lot of other people are these days, trying to get their hands on them.
Give Donut Cables some interest if you have interest for this interest check, and better yet, give him some good wishes and hope that the original designer says yes and approves him doing round 2.
Well, Royal Alpha is a vintage colorway, is it not?
Yes, but I think the one he's doing does take specific liberties with the colorway, but I mean, according to SP, no one owns a colorway. I mean, it's still nice that he's getting permission, right? I mean, he could probably do it regardless of the permission from the person who ran around.
It's a community. It's nice to be nice.
Exactly.
Yeah, especially in a smaller niche community like this, where you see a lot of the same people over and over and over again. It often pays to be a good person, believe it or not.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of being a good person, let's do our Q&A, because we like being good people in our Q&As usually. But everyone in chat, you know the drill. If you have a question for Jesse, myself, or Brian about anything keyboard related, anything Top Pack related, ask it in chat, and we will get to it whenever, in order that we see it. And as we wait for the questions to roll in, Jesse, we're going to start with the usual Top Clack question number 1. Do you prefer pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
No thought at all on that one.
No, it's not a question. Like, sorry, I should back up, because really high quality souffle style pancakes trump waffles any day of the week. I know 2 places to get them: Bill's in Tokyo and Bet's Ocean View Diner in Berkeley. These are like half-inch thick, like almost like a cake pancakes. But other than those, waffles.
We actually have a place out by me called the Oak Table, which is a breakfast-only place where the chef there does a souffle-style waffle or pancake, and it's really, really quite something.
So
it does start to deflate pretty fast, but
it's gotta go.
You gotta
go. So I texted Brian a picture earlier. I was at this brunch place, and on their menu, I didn't get it because it was brunch and I didn't want so much sugar so early. It was a cinnamon roll pancake. So a pancake made with cinnamon roll ingredients.
That sounds intense.
Right?
It's actually for like a breakfast or brunch item.
That sounds crazy. I mean, yeah, it makes sense as a breakfast or brunch item, but I mean, I'm trying
it sounds like what I'd work at like 2:30 a.m. after a night of drinking.
That's what fried food's for.
That too, yeah. You just want like garbage at that point. You're like, just put food in my mouth.
Okay, Ryan, hit us with some questions.
All right, so it looks like this is a pretty long one. Let me gather myself for this one. All right, Nighthawk205 asks, long-winded question for Jesse. You're clearly knowledgeable about ergo boards. Is that from learning over time due to RSI, or something that you picked up as a result of Keyboardia? Did additional research come into play once the Kickstarter was successful and you knew they were fans of a new, good ergo board?
So the short answer is yes. I've been learning about ergo boards for a really long time. As I spent more than 10 years trying to find one that didn't suck. And I know that's contentious. There are plenty of ergo boards that are good for a lot of people, but it's always a very personal thing. And once I stumbled upon Geekhack and the ErgoDocs and discovered that people were building their own boards, that's when I started diving more into how to design a good board rather than what good boards I could buy. That is where I found sort of the old Japanese research from the 80s that we've all forgotten about from the Tron project. But it's one of these things where it's a thing I've loved and cared about for a long time, but it definitely got more intense as I started building. I don't think it got more intense after the Kickstarter. After the Kickstarter has just been refining the thing we've already got and tweaking based on putting our prototypes in front of people. During the campaign, I think 1,000 people put their hands on the prototypes, and we saw some stuff that we had done that was not quite right, and so we tweaked and improved.
All right, well, there you go. Omega Supreme asks, are any of us getting the GMK 9009 set? I will probably not be getting this round because I am currently using 9009. So I don't really need another set. The only thing I'd consider would be picking it up and selling this one because I like the newer Legends better. Like, for instance, the backspace and some of the other stuff he's got going on there. the short backspace. I mean, because I'm an HHKB user. So I don't know if I somehow decide that I like the Legends better, I'll pick up that one and I'll sell this round 1 set. But as of now, I am not planning on getting a round 2 kit of 9009.
I am undecided because I just got 2 GMK sets in the mail today.
So what's the third at this point? Come on.
Fair.
I don't think I actually own any GMK caps at all. Like, I went so far down the rabbit hole.
like you just like bypassed all that stuff. Like
no, I didn't buy caps. I bought molds. I have these like 4 giant hunks of steel that are mine, but they're stuck in a factory in China and will always be in a factory in China.
Man, we are getting some good questions here. All right, we're in for a treat. All right, so Black Simon asks us, how do you feel about Kbdfans getting so big with their kits? Currently, it's just a few layouts, but it seems like they'll soon offer kits for most layouts at much lower prices than community members. I assume he means community vendors. How does that make you feel? So, as a consumer, awesome, because competition among vendors only benefits us, generally speaking. So, if they keep pumping out good quality stuff for the price, then we only win.
Like, they are community vendors. Like, they are part of the community. Yes, they're based in Korea, but that doesn't make them less a part of our community.
Kbdfans is a four-man operation, I believe.
Kbdfans
really?
Chinese, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they're Chinese. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought I got the wrong ones. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
But yeah, no.
It's a pretty small operation. Yeah, I think it's only 4 of them. And I think only 1 or 2 of them speak English. So if you're ever emailing them, it's usually the same person.
I've talked to like the main guy, and his English is like not very conversational. But they do have at least one other person that is good enough at English.
But like, yeah, especially like they're part of the community. They're building stuff that gets more product into people's hands. They make more keyboards available. And yeah, it is more expensive to make stuff in the States. We tried, we tried really hard to make our keyboard in the States, but it's not. There are a couple of US-based keyboard manufacturers, but even for our product, they're like, oh yeah, no, we'd send you to our Chinese partner.
Yep. Yeah. So something kind of related to this is, I'm kind of a firm believer that there is a pretty big void in the community where there should be like mid-range custom keyboards, and I think that's what Kbdfans is kind of doing, because they're not at the same level.
75, Tina, the Mui, Nui, I mean, NUI.
Yeah.
This probably the new 90%, probably their new 50%. They're all going to be mid-range, and for a lot of people, that's kind of like where it's at, right?
Yes, there are a lot of entry-level customs, a lot of like sandwich cases on the market. There's obviously OEM boards that are under $100 and stuff, but there's also a lot of high-end customs that cost $300, $400, $500 for a kit, and obviously not everyone can afford that. So when people are able to get their hands on keyboard kits, that are custom at an enthusiast level, that are like all metal and have options for $200 or less, I think that's a really big deal, because that's obviously not cheap, but it's more of an everyman price than something like.
I feel like as the community is growing, something like what you said, like we're kind of saying like an economic effect, like this new middle class of keyboardists have emerged from like not existing because our community wasn't big enough. Because it used to be just
it's needed.
It's needed for lack of nice words, plebs and KB custom people, right? And then, of course, there'd be the people who go their different directions into deep rabbit holes like ergonomics, ortholinears, and etc. But until it's really just been either you have an OEM board or you have some kind of sandwich case, or you went all the way and you have a TGR Jane. And there was no $200,
and that's like $175. That's like $100 and like $700 respectively. So, like, you need stuff to fill that gap that is cheap enough for the average RMK user to buy, but, isn't going to, like, blow away stuff like higher-end customs, because, obviously, usually products scale with money in this community, the more you spend on a board, usually the better it is. Disregarding like aftermarket stuff usually, because a lot of stuff gets marked up so heavily. But yeah, if you can get $200 custom keyboards into the hands of the everyman, then I think that's a really big thing that the community has been missing for a while.
Yeah, we've been trying to figure out what it is we're doing next, and whether it's probably something that's going to be a little more accessible than a $300 ergo board with a wood enclosure and sculpted caps. But I don't know if it's I don't know if we should be doing a kit next for something more accessible, or a fully assembled mech board that's priced reasonably and still programmable, but maybe doesn't have LEDs, so is way more affordable. There's some classic repros we want to do, but there's a lot that can be done at a reasonable price point that's just not being done yet.
Exactly, and I'm really glad to start seeing that happen. HHKB for Life asks all of us, let's talk about desoldering. How much better is a desoldering gun versus a Shoutout?
I don't know.
Which I've never heard it called a Shoutout.
There's a brand, Shoutout, that's why.
Is that just a plunger style?
Yeah, just a sucker.
It's a solder sucker.
What do you see me use on my streams, Brian? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've used both pretty extensively. As some people know, I actually have a Hako FR300 desoldering gun, and it's
nice.
It's leaps and bounds easier than a plunger style. Obviously, it's immensely more expensive. So whether that value scales for you or not is obviously up to you. I have desoldered a lot of stuff, so it's worth it for me. I can desolder a 60% board in about 5 minutes.
Oh my
God. Which is pretty impressive.
I need a desoldering gun.
You do. If you're going to be prototyping, yes.
Well, prototyping, I've done some horrible things to take apart boards. I've destroyed so many switches, but I have a case of 5,000 Mattia switches in the garage. It's I have switches and they're an older design, so they're kind of to burn. But no, I use a sucker or braid. It's a pain in the ass.
Yes, if I'm really in the zone, a solder sucker I can probably desolder a 60% board in 25-30 minutes. Huey's a bit faster than I am, but I go for the gun.
I did want to talk about what Brian mentioned on the other side of value, because they're not always cheap, right? And I desolder a decent amount as well. Not as much as Brian. Brian desolders more than I, unquestionably. But I do desolder a decent amount. Brian's seen me desolder on stream a few times. And if you know what you're doing, a solder sucker works perfectly fine. I don't use a wick. I just use the solder sucker. I know a lot of people like using the wick to complement the sucker to get up to small bits. I have my own weird technique that kind of just works. That's why I don't use it. And that's why, because it works so well, at least for me, I haven't had the desire to invest in the desoldering gun yet. Knowing myself, it'll happen in the future. Just not yet.
Yeah.
For surface... Yeah.
You gotta... you have to be able to afford a good one. The one I use is, I think it's... Someone actually bought it for me, so I got really lucky. But I think it's about, $300. So, you have to, it's more than you have to desolder a lot for that to be justified, in my opinion. And I've desoldered dozens of boards with it since then, so it's definitely paid off dividends for me, because it's actually fun to use, because when I use a normal solder sucker and I have to desolder a board, I'm about to hate my life for the next half hour. I'm gonna hate my life, but using the gun, I'm just done, and it's really quite a pleasure.
Yeah. And for surface mount, even just a hot air gun just makes everything trivial.
Yep.
Well, when it comes to me and surface mount, I pay someone else to do it. I don't bother with surface mount. I don't.
Yeah, I always did, and then as I've started putting microcontrollers on custom boards, it's really useful to be able to do the first one at home and figure out if I have a board that's even gonna work.
True. Very.
I suck at it, but I've been learning.
Yeah. So wrapping up to the actual question, how much better is a desoldering gun versus a slotted bullet? Obviously, it depends on which one of each you're using, but by and large, I'd say a desolder gun, as long as it's a quality one, is going to be leaps and bounds and dimensions better than a plunger style. But obviously, the plunger style still gets you by. Just depends on how much desoldering you do and how much it pisses you off and how much money you have to spare.
Awesome.
All right, so Megaforce asks. Oh, I'm always afraid when he asks questions. Why does the Muffin Man line on
Live.
Cherry Lane? No, he says line.
Oh, okay. It's supposed to be live.
I'm not correcting that. He says line.
Okay. Adam, correct your grammar.
Why not Topra Drive or Buckling Spring Circle?
It's
Okay,
because,
I don't even-
I have the answer.
So,
It's
wait.
because the gingerbread man, he lives on Cherry Lane. Is it actually supposed to be Cherry Lane? I'm pretty sure it was something else. But
I don't remember.
if he lives on Cherry Lane, the reason he lives on Cherry Lane is he's such a keyboard hipster, he only goes with the OG. He only goes to Cherry. That's why. That's going to be my answer.
Cherry's more OG than Buckling Spring?
No,
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
But that's the best answer I got.
All right, let's move on
Drury
to a real
Lane. Thank you, Nighthawk 205. It is Drury Lane. I'm trying to remember, like, watching the original Shrek in my head. I don't remember, like... Where does the Muffin Man live? The Muffin Man? The Muffin... Okay, I'm gonna stop. But yeah.
Okay, moving on to a more real question. I'm a little confused on how this is phrased, but hopefully you guys can understand it. Is the 40% quote-unquote move the keys, not your hands, end quote, idea really an ergo win?
Oh, that's what he's trying.
I think I get it. So it's the idea being that with a 40%, you have less reach and twist than you would with a 60 or a full size. There is a biomechanical win to that. That is like you are doing less stretching. Whether it's actually comfortable is going to end up being a really personal decision. Whether it's more efficient is going to be a personal decision. Like, arguably the most comfortable, most ergonomic board out there is that data hand, where each finger is in a little well and moves a quarter inch in each of 5 directions.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, generally speaking, the less movement you have to do, the better. I guess is kind of the bottom line there. All right. LOL Shecky asks Huey, what GMK sets did you get?
I got GMK KA 2017, which is a GMK set with this beautiful custom pink color. I will have nice pictures on RMK later. And I also got some GMK Classic Retro, which is a nice baby GMK set.
That's probably why you're not joining the 9009 group by then. If you didn't get that, I bet you would have joined round 2.
Round 2 hasn't even started yet, so.
I know, but you probably would if you did not have fast subscription.
It would be more of a for sure thing. Right now, I'm kind of like about it.
All right, Corbin Dallas asks, will any of you be getting Laser by Mito? That's the GMK laser set he's referring to.
If he has the Japanese keys, yes.
Yeah, I'm up in the air. I like the set. I don't love the set, but I really do like the Hiragana Legends. If that's an option, like the only Hiragana Legends, not the pad printed ones, but just the Hiragana caps, I'll probably get that.
That's what I want. Like I've talked to Mito a few times about it. I'm like, hey man, at least do it for me, man. Come on, just
the weeb in me would have a lot of trouble saying no to that particular set of alphas. So, all right. Bug Whisperer asks, any upcoming 96 key buys coming up in the near or distant future? Totally missed out on Lifesaver.
In distant future, the Kira by Input Club.
That's a
farther distant future. There was something else.
I don't remember. Deadline asks, what is after the Model 01? I imagine that's a question for Jesse.
I mean, if either of you guys know, I'd be thrilled to hear the answer.
Well, I know. I bet it's the Model 2.
No.
It's the Model B, actually. We're just going to go 1B, 3D.
Actually, the successor to the Model 1 would be the Model 10, it being numbered in binary. Because we're huge nerds. The next thing, there are a bunch of next things we've played with. There is a chance we will have something to announce by the Bay Area keyboard meetup. There's some classic keyboard repros we want to do, and it's more about layout than caps for us, though I know caps are important. There's a symmetric stagger 60% that I designed like a year and a half ago that I really like, and I have like 5 of the boards, and everyone I know who's seen it has fallen in love with it. Essentially, if you go spelunking on DCAC, you can find the early iteration of me trying to figure out the layout. It's got an inverted T arrow key cluster in the center. The right-hand side is pretty normal. The left-hand side is a mirror of the right-hand side. And so it gets you a bunch of the ergo win of the Model 1 without looking weird. It's like it fits at least the early designs fit in a standard poker compatible 60% enclosure. But whatever we do next, the next thing we do is going to be less expensive. It's going to be something that hopefully takes a couple of months from go to shipping. And that probably means that either it's a kit. I've wanted to do a kit for a while with the Kailh switch clips. So all the surface mount stuff is pre-soldered, but we'll probably sell it with switches and caps, but you want to switch your switches, that's cool. But something that hits a lower, way more accessible price point, and can take custom cap sets. But
yeah, sign me up for that. Yeah. I need to experience the switch clips.
Yes.
Okay, I've seen them. My factory used them for some stuff, and they seem reasonable. I think that the Input Club's new device actually has them, and so they will totally ship before.
Yes. So that's
can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
All right. Black Simon asks, if you've got time, polycarbonate half plate / full plate experiences. Also, have you gotten your B-Suns in and noticed how much better the housings are for linears? I have very little experience with polycarbonate plates and half plates in general, so that's all Huey.
Do you want to go over your B-Sun experience?
Sure, that'll actually be quick, because I do have... Not only do I have pandas in, which are by B-Sun, but I also have the B-Sun Browns that were a review sample from One Up Keyboards. He sent me a pack yet. I actually haven't put them in anything yet, because I don't have anything to put them in yet. So I'm kind of just waiting a little bit on that. Then I'll put out some opinions and stuff. But I haven't actually put a linear stem into B-Sun housings yet, because that's kind of like what pandas already are anyways. Sure, maybe another stem might be better in it, but I don't know. I haven't tried it yet, so no real thoughts there.
So for me, about B-Sun Browns, I got the B-Sun Browns from One Up as well. I bought them. I'm not as cool as Brian. I don't get things for free, unfortunately. I haven't installed them on a board either. I'm probably this weekend going to, though, either on this random carbon sandwich thing, or this this Kbdfans 60% high pro case with this red plates. You guys gotta watch me desolder this with a solder sucker. I know a lot of people are always curious, because they don't believe I can desolder, because most people I talk to in the community who usually they're new at desoldering, so they think solder suckers are horrible, but they're not. You just need to, as the kids say, get good.
Yeah, I can attest that I have watched Huey desolder several boards now, and he is absolutely an aficionado at the solder sucker.
I know how to suck that solder.
Huey is a professional sucker.
So yeah, B-Suns, I haven't put them on anything. I have swapped the housings. I haven't put a linear switch, but I put an MX clear stem inside of it. I know there's another Geek Hack and RMK user Pudsey, he's been raving about B-Sun clears. They're decent. They have a decent tactility. I wouldn't say they're like super special. If I did something with the B-Sun and I changed the brown to something else, I'd probably do that just because I have so many extra MX clear stems laying around. I have like 150, I have about 150 62-gram lubed ergo clears. Like already lubed, already 62-gram spring swaps. Like 150 of them just sitting in a bag. So, who knows?
Nice.
So,
yeah. I've tried tactile stems in the B-Sun housings. I have tried the MX Clear. I don't think it's that great personally. I think I prefer the Zelio stem over the MX Clear stem in the B-Sun housing personally. But what I like way more than that is actually just the Halo stem, because it becomes all curve. The entire thing is just all tactility. It's not like a Zelio or MX Clear stem where it's like a hiccup down the way. It's like all curve, and I really like that because it's kind of simulating the SKCM Brown Alp switch, which
Brian
I really
likes
enjoy.
the curves, guys. Remember, Brian likes.
I like a good curve, so if it's just like a little bump on the way down, like I gotta have that hourglass,
Part 2 of the question: polycarb plates, which I have also used, as well as half plates, which I also have used in the polycarb flavor. Polycarb makes for a really interesting plate feel. Are you doing like if you do like a polycarb plate on like an aluminum case, that's drastically different than a polycarb on polycarb, for example, because like the density of those materials are just very, very different. But I would recommend at least trying it. I like polycarb. I don't have a current polycarb case or plate. I used to, but I want to get another one very soon. In terms of half plate, I'm a fan of half plates. I know a lot of people hate on half plates. For those of you in chat who may not be initiated with the whole half plate, it's having a plate, either polycarbonate or aluminum, that only covers, if it was a 60% half plate, it'd be covering escape, tab, caps, shift, your modifiers in bottom row, and then up that right side for right shift, enter, pipe, and backspace. Those are only keys.
Weird.
Yeah, those are the only keys that have a plate. Everything else is PCB mounted. So all your alphanumerics have a softer feel to them because they mount straight to the PCB. But the keys that you'd hit, your mods, you hit maybe sometimes a bit harder, they would have the rigidity of that plate under them. It's really
That's an interesting concept to me, because you would think that you would hit those switches lighter, right? Because you hit them with your pinkies and ring fingers. Right?
It's a little weird. Like especially if you're cording them, and a lot of people like to hit enter hard because they feel like it's being emphatic, and you do it without thinking about it. Okay. But I think it would be a lot easier to just use a heavier weight spring on those keys. I don't know.
No, you have a point about that.
For a while, that was a really big thing in the community. People would have different weights for alphas than they would for their mods.
No, there was a Japanese board I bought bought commercially a long time ago that did that. But no, I did a lot of my early prototyping with polycarbonate plates, and then we ended up ditching it for plywood plates.
Plywood plates.
So both are the things you can easily laser cut. Yeah. Plywood turns out to be lighter weight material, more resilient to little bits of damage. It looks a hell of a lot nicer. I found that PC plates would crack pretty reliably, and there are a bunch of reasons for that. And PC is a lot heavier than plywood, but plywood is so it cuts like butter. It's so and with a thicker plate. With a thicker PC plate, MX switches don't clip into it very well, so because they're designed for a plate that's an 1/8 inch thick or thinner, and so you need to typically hot glue them or something else to keep them in place. If you don't have a PCB underneath, if you super glue it leaches inside and makes them super scratchy. I learned that the very hard way. But plywood plates, because the side of the wood is a little bit soft, the retaining clips on the switches actually clip into the wood.
That makes sense. Yeah, I can just bite into the wood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everyone
in chat. Where's that? Plywood 60, that PW60 custom. I'm waiting for it now. And if you're gonna do the PW60, guys, make sure there's an HHKB
I'm gonna go off
version.
camera for a second and grab some stuff while you. Yeah, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
PW60.
I will address a question real quick while he does that. HHKB for Life asks, do you recommend lubing SKCM Alps after ultrasonic clean? So, for me, I'm still kind of a noob when it comes to lubing Alps. I've messed around with it with a couple different lubes, but I haven't really found something that I like particularly well. A lot of people like the DuPont dry lube for your Alps. I tried that. I didn't really notice that much of a difference. But I mean, if your Alps are really clean, maybe probably don't need lube. And if you do, maybe try a wet lube. I know a lot of people frown upon that, but I found better results with wet lube than dry lube when it comes to Alps. But that's my personal experience.
Matthias is shipping their switches lube from the factory these days with a wet lube.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
This was actually the second keyboard I ever cut. The first one was an acrylic plate. This was one of the first prototypes for that symmetric 60 with the keycaps from the very first buy that I bought into.
Wow, that's
DSA Retro.
DSA Retro, yeah.
Velcro. I was one of the top 5 purchasers. Everybody else in the top 10 was a distributor, but it was the first group buy after I started prototyping, and I needed MX caps for prototyping. And so, yeah, it was nuts. But this is screwed together layered plywood with Velcro on the for the back plate, and all horrible point-to-point soldering. This was I was very new. You can see how bad my and it had a teensy inside.
We all start somewhere. If you're in chat and you're newer to the community and you want to try making your own board, start. There's no way to get into it other than doing some research and just getting started.
It's super.
Just like most things in this community, when it comes to learning, just pester the people that know more than you until you know more than them.
Yeah.
Typically a pretty nice, welcoming, opening community when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah. From that, it was a pretty quick step to this a couple of months later.
That's a butterfly.
I need that.
Right?
So, this was sort of what was leading toward the Model 1. But again, it was all point-to-point soldered, all hot glued. It had a Arduino Micro in the middle. The USB port is in the head of the butterfly. It weighs a bazillion pounds. After that, it was this. This was the orange, one sheet of orange at the back. And there's something like 15 or 20 prototypes getting to the Model 1,
Should I buy one of those?
You can't buy one of these, but you can point-to-point wire a board, right?
I don't like doing it, but I could. Yeah.
Sure. I can cut you acrylic. That's easy. I have the vector files to make these.
I might need one of those.
We'll talk let us talk about it when we're not boring all the people on chat.
Definitely. Actually, as far as it looks, I think we are completely caught up with questions, so it's probably a good stopping point. We're over the 2-hour mark right now, which we try to stay under usually. So
cool. I forgot to, when I was doing my bit shilling at the beginning, I forgot to say that we do have a coupon for Top Clack listeners.
Yes. What's the coupon?
If you want to buy a Model 1 from shop.keyboard.io, the coupon code TOPCLACK, all one word, very imaginative, will take, I think, $20 off a keyboard.
Nice, very cool. I just put that link in the Twitch chat too, so
awesome.
All you viewers, check that out if you're interested in buying one of these. TOPCLACK, all one word for the promo code. Get a cheaper deal there. Good stuff.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, Huey.
Fun.
Yeah. One last question. We'll touch on this one because it's a genuine one. No Chance RPG asks you, Jesse, do you have a CNC machine in your house?
Yes, I do.
Nice.
We have a shop out in the garage.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. I want a CNC machine.
Right? I don't even know what I'd make with it.
Business expense.
That's the best part.
And it's already paid for itself in not waiting for round trips to China for prototyping.
Oh yeah, definitely. I imagine. All right, Huey, take us out.
Okay, everyone who's watched, thank you so much for watching another wonderful episode of Top Clack. Thank you, Jesse, so much for joining us today. If you like what you see, feel free to check out our Patreon, which is linked down below, as well as any of our other social media goodies. To all you long-time Top Clack fans, we announced it last week, but I will also be announcing it probably every episode until it happens. September 29th. The Top Clack 1 year anniversary celebration.
28th, not the 29th.
Sorry, on the 28th, which is on Thursday like normal. It'll be the same time, 6 p.m. Pacific. It might be a slightly extended episode. Probably will end up being that way. We're going to have some goodies.
It'll be a lot of fun.
I'm going to say some goodies and some fun for all of our fans who've been supporting us this last year, a lot of the people who've been, introduced to the show and have somehow quickly fallen in love with pancakes or waffles, and a lot about the keyboards. So, September 28th, be there,
yes.
Or be square, or be both.
Be both.
I don't judge against
both.
shapes. You can be whatever oblong shape you'd like. But if you're hourglass shape and female, talk to me. We can work something out.
Wow.
Okay,
wow.
But Top Clack episode, November 28th. Not November 28th, but September 28th. And then NorCal meetup, which you can see Jesse at, you can see myself at, you can see Brian at, November 18th. 18th? That's the day, right?
11th?
11th. Sorry, 11th. 1-1.
We cannot do dates today.
What are dates? I'm sorry.
11/11.
Yes, but on 11/11, Make-A-Wish. It will be NorCal meetup where you can catch all three of us. There will be a live in-person Top Clack episode at the meetup, which I found out about last week.
We didn't even know.
We didn't even know what was going to happen.
The host of Top Clack didn't even know.
Yeah. So, see you next week, everyone, for another great episode of Top Clack. See you on the 28th for our 1 year anniversary, and hopefully we can see you on November 11th for the NorCal meetup. Everyone, will catch you next week. Thank you for watching.
Same time, same place.
Thank you, guys.